And I invite you to just jump in and share stories you have. If you've got questions, just shout them out. You know, we're not gonna be formal here, so feel comfortable adding and jumping in as needed. So 300 surveys and 300 Google reviews from complaints to cheers. A little bit about me. My name is Chris Molinax. I'm the CEO of CRM Properties. We're a property management company in central Indiana. We've got about 18 years experience in property management and real estate. Love what I do. I like property management. Luckily, I don't deal with the day-to-day operations, or I might not love it, but I do love the part I play in property management. A little bit more about our company. We've got, like I said, 2 locations in Indiana. We're in Indianapolis and in Kokomo. Started in Kokomo, recently went into the Indianapolis market. Currently manage about 775 units. We're 70% single family, 30% multifamily. We do manage, I think, high effort, somewhat challenged type properties. We've got a lot of Section 8 properties. Our average rent is $1,100. We offer property management services, real estate services, and then we do in-house maintenance and project management. And kind of what this whole session is about, 1,408 Google reviews with a 4.7 rating. So my team works hard on getting Google reviews, and that's something we're pretty proud of. So we'll talk a little bit more about Google reviews throughout this session. But I do want to start with surveys first. We're going to kind of break this into two sessions or two parts. First, we're going to talk about surveys, kind of what we do on surveys, and then second, we'll go into Google reviews. Surveys, we survey a lot of different parties in our company. We survey clients, we survey our employees, we survey our residents. For this topic, we're going to just talk about our surveys for residents and just kind of what we do with those. Surveys, we survey residents. We believe that surveying will lead to happier residents. We'll get the feedback to be able to do something with it, which will in turn reduce move-outs, maybe reduce or increase your lease renewals, and then lead to a better client experience. Last year, we saw our move-outs decrease by about 12%, and we saw our lease renewal increase by about 25%. Some of that might be the market. I'm sure the market plays a role in it, but I think surveying the residents, listening to what they have to say, and taking action with it when needed is also playing a role in it as well. So 2025 resident survey data. It's kind of hard to see on here, but I'm not touching that anymore. It's already a little finicky. Resident survey data. So we sent out 1,582 resident surveys. We got back 338 surveys, so about a 21% return rate on the surveys we sent, 7.9 average satisfaction score, and we did all that without incentivizing anybody. We didn't incentivize the resident, we didn't incentivize employees, we didn't make it a KPI, didn't make it part of something to increase that number. We certainly could have thrown some things at this to get a better return rate or to even send out more surveys. This was just almost organic-like data that came out of the surveys that we sent. We have 3 different spots where we're asking for surveys from residents. We have our new residents that about 30 days after move-in, we're sending a survey at that point. So 30 days after move-in, we ask a few more questions on just how their experience has been. We kind of started with a basic, what's your experience like? How satisfied are you with our property management services? And we give them a 1 to 10 scale for how their satisfaction level is. We also ask them how they rate the ease of the application process. We give them 5 options on that. Most of the questions we're asking, we're going to give them drop-down options to give us some answers that we predetermine are the answers that we want to choose from. We also ask them how satisfied they are with the communication and responsiveness of our team. And then upon move-in, was your unit clean and ready for occupancy? And then we always give them an option to add more information. So we're checking with the new residents and asking those few questions. We also will send surveys at the exiting point. So after the resident has moved out, as soon as they move out, we're going to send a survey. We ask similar type questions at that point as well. And then our existing residents, the residents that not either new or moved out, we're sending them surveys 2 times a year. So we're sending those out to every single resident. Everybody on the lease is going to get one twice a year. So again, what are we asking? A lot of questions are we asking. How satisfied are you with our services? That gets asked at all 3 points that we're sending them out. These are just a few examples of some of the questions. I already mentioned a couple of these. On the move-out one, we always like to ask the question about how they rate the maintenance and upkeep during their during their stay at the property. Our properties are over 100 years old. Most of them have been rental properties for many, many years. So we have a lot of maintenance, a lot of upkeep on the properties. So that's usually a big pain point. So we want to try to gauge if that's maybe a cause of a move-out or how much that may have impacted their move-out decision. So that's one of the key questions we're asking at the move-outs. So how we ask? I think the question, the way that we're doing it, we have a simple, automated, consistent process for sending these out. We've got it pretty dialed in. It's managed through a software. We use a software called Ask Nicely. We've got a person that owns this process, and we're just sending them out through emails. We do have the option to send it to them through a text message as well, but we've chosen just at this point to just do it through email, so they just get it on a straight email. And we wanted to make it really, really simple for them. You almost don't even have to open the email. It just pops right up, and you have that ability just to give a 1 to 10 rating on the general one that we send out, and just made it really, really simple for them. If you use Property Meld, I think Property Meld's one that sends out surveys like that as well. Just really, really simple. The simpler you can make it, obviously, the more likely they are to complete the surveys. So what do we do with the results? Obviously, if you're going to survey, you've got to listen to what they have to say. Obviously, it doesn't always mean that what they have to say is accurate or something you can do anything with. But I do think it's important, if you're going to ask, you probably need to listen and at some point possibly even communicate with them about it. So we're going to react typically to it, whether it's internally, externally, one or the other. We're typically reacting to what we get. When needed, we're going to reach out to them and talk to them on topics that need further communication. Another big one that we do is we're going to share. We share the information, we share the surveys with our clients and our team. We'll talk about this a little bit on Google reviews as well. We tend to be in a pretty negative business with a lot of problems, a lot of negative things are happening. This is a great opportunity to bring something positive and kind of force some positive stuff back into the company. So we love to share positive surveys, positive Google reviews, and kind of blast that out internally and externally when possible. I think our clients sometimes need reminders of great things that we're doing, great things that are happening, and they have no clue whether the resident's really happy or not. They just know whether they stay or they move out. So I think it's a great point to share with the client too when the resident's really happy, especially if they say something really good about us. And then audit. I think the surveys lead to some auditing that we can do. If we're seeing trends in the results that we're getting back, or we're seeing something that just comes out of nowhere that we're like, how is that going on? It gives us an opportunity to potentially dive deeper into our systems, our processes, to see if there is a problem or if there's something in need of some tweaking or such. So who owns the survey process? I think one of the keys to getting surveys to be a consistent, regular, easy part of your day-to-day operations is you got to give it to somebody and let somebody own it. And it's certainly typically not going to be management that you want doing that. So we've got in our company, we've got a remote team member who, they're really on our accounting side. So they're kind of a systems, a process-minded person already. And we just let that person do it. They're kind of independent from operations, so they maybe aren't as aware of, hey, can I send surveys at certain points, and maybe skew results if I know I'm asking at a certain time. They keep it very systematic. So we've got our process specialist. She's the one that owns it. She takes the task of sending out the surveys. They're already put together. She knows. She just emailed management at the first of the year asking, hey, what questions do we do this year? What's the rotation going to be? So she basically gets it all set up so that they're going out same time every single month and knows exactly what questions they're going to ask and if anything changes. So she's sending them out. She distributes the feedback to the appropriate team members. So she's taking the surveys that are coming back and kind of grouping them together. She's figuring out what the results were, and then she's going to send those out to either the property management team or the maintenance team or whoever. And then she tracks and reports the metrics and KPIs. So not only is she getting the actual surveys and organizing that, she's going to create the metrics and KPIs that we get, and then she's going to get those stored in our scorecards so that we kind of have that information historically and can look back on it over the years. It also makes it really easy for us to go get the information. Prior to this session, it just took me seconds really to go in and see how many surveys that we got back, what was our score, and that's all due to the fact that she's organizing all the data and information that we get. And then also she manages the software, so she's the one that uses the software that we have for this. So she's the one that's kind of become the expert in the software. She's also the one that if we're having software issues, she's potentially managing those or coming to us and saying, hey, we need some software changes, and offering suggestions on that. So that's kind of the roles that she has. And I think that's key again to making the process work. If you don't have somebody that owns it, more than likely it's just not it's never gonna get up and run consistently and successfully. Also, we got our portfolio managers that are kind of owning and reacting to negative scores. Again, this is just residents. So there's a certain point that if the score meets a certain criteria, or if comments have a certain, there's certain comments that are coming into it, then the portfolio manager is responsible for reacting to that. So survey metrics and KPIs that we're using. So these are the items that we're actually putting these numbers in on a monthly basis so that we can see how we're doing as a company when it comes to them. So surveys sent, as you saw earlier, 1,400, a little over 1,400 surveys sent this year. Open rate, we were at 21% open rate. Surveys completed, I think it was around 330 surveys that we completed this year. I'm sorry, the open rate. I didn't bring that for this number, but open rate was, the software allows us when the surveys are sent to actually look and see how many of those surveys got opened. So now we can see that 50% of them got opened, but only 21% of them got returned or whatever. So we're actually seeing that the residents are opening them, but they're not completing them, which I think is valuable information as well. So we do track the open rate, and then the completion rate, again, is kind of tied to the surveys completed, 21% completion rate for us, and then our average satisfaction score, another thing that we're going to keep track of on a regular basis. And with all these metrics and KPIs we have, not only do we have the number, the actuals, but we have targets for them, and we redo those targets every year. So we just came out this year, with what our 2026 targets are on all these. So this year we had a target of hitting 300 Google reviews. We've got about 330. So I think this year we're quite a bit higher now. I think we're 425 or so that we're wanting to hit this year on surveys completed. So I think the targets are really important so everybody knows where we're trying to get, not just sit back and reactively see what we got. So how to increase survey participation rate. We didn't really put a lot of effort into trying to really increase it. We just had our system built, so we just let it go, and we're pretty happy with the results, so we didn't really feel that there was a big need. I think going into this year, as we moved from 330 to 425, we're gonna have to be a little bit more intentional about trying to get surveys completed. Otherwise, we'll probably end up pretty similar to what we did this year. So there's a number of things that you can do to increase the participation rate. I already mentioned a few of these. Obviously, have someone that owns the process. They're kind of that starting point of, hey, we need 420 this year, so she's probably going to come back and say, if we don't change anything and we have the same participation rate, which we would expect, then we're going to have to send out blank more surveys this year just to hit the target. So having that person that owns the process is huge to increasing the participation rate. Reacting to the feedback, obviously, if we're going to react to them and do something about it, it's going to make people next time think, hey, I got to do this because I got something from it. And we've all probably seen it too. When we give surveys, if there's just no response to it, it's going to make you a little less likely to want to maybe participate in the future. Maybe consistent timing, just making sure it's a consistent thing that's happening at the same time all the time. That certainly can increase it as well. And then simple survey questions. Like anything we do, if it's not simple, obviously they're not going to participate. So we've got to keep the questions simple, keep the process simple, make it super easy. Otherwise, you're going to decrease the likelihood that they're going to be involved. And then lastly, another thing that can be done to increase the participation rate is to incentivize the residents and team. Yes?
When did you start this process?
So we've been surveying residents for about 3 years.
Okay.
So yeah, we got all that historical data back for 3 years that we've been doing it. So
that's when you started getting most of your 5-star reviews and stuff?
Yeah, we were probably chasing Google reviews a little bit longer than that, but from the survey standpoint, about 3 years. Google reviews, probably a couple years that we've gotten aggressive on it, but we've been conscious of actively trying to get Google reviews for probably 4 or 5 years.
What have you seen as far as return with like phone calls and stuff like that? Have you seen an uptick?
on like Google reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, Google reviews, it really does drives, you know, your SEO, it drives validation from your website. So I think that when people, you know, you can tie your website in, so Google reviews are coming onto your website. And I think as people see the Google reviews, the clients, the people that are calling, then you're gonna get more calls, you're gonna get people that are more likely to sign up. I think we probably see more, maybe an increase in conversion rate, maybe more so than understanding if we're getting more calls due to Google reviews.
Yeah, we've struggled to get reviews, and we've had a string of tenants that went ape shit on us. And,
Yeah.
we went from a 4.7 to a 4 real quick. And so if I could get myself 300 5-stars, I could bury those.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that. That's one of the great things about getting to 1,400 Google reviews. We're at 1,400 Google reviews now. We could get 10 one-star Google reviews tomorrow, and it probably wouldn't even really move the needle.
No.
And that's one of the great things. Now, it works on the other side too. It's even harder to now move it, but
Correct.
if you can get 1,400 at a 4.7, I can't imagine we're going to see that get impacted unless something catastrophic happens.
Yeah.
Incentivizing residents and team members. I think we do a lot more of that on the Google review side of it than we do on the surveys, but it's certainly a way to increase this. If I made it a little bit more of a KPI that the portfolio managers have to get a specific amount of owner surveys completed, and then work with them on how to talk surveys to owners and then get more that way, then I'm sure we could drive, you know, our numbers quite a bit if we incentivize team members, even residents. You know, there's a lot of strategies there. Complete a survey and we'll give you $5 off your rent next month or whatever. You just have to decide how valuable it is to you to get that information, but you can drive it with a little bit of incentives as well. So Google review. Well, has anybody got anything else to add on surveys? Anybody surveying residents right now have anything they can share about any successes you're having or challenges you're having?
I have just a couple of questions. Now, where do the surveys go when they come back to you? I know you have Google, so that it rests on the Google platform, but when you send out surveys and then they return them, now what? Where did they go?
Yeah, so the software we use is called Ask Nicely, so it's all managed in there. So when we get a survey back, the first thing that happens is the way we've got it set up in the software, and you can set it up however you want. It's obviously going to depend on what you want. Although we are trying to control the amount of emails we get, we've got a system now that when a Google review comes in, everybody on the team gets a notification. So everybody in the company gets to see this Google review that comes in. So not only is it in the software, but everybody gets notified of it, and it's distributed in that way.
How do you arrange that for that to
Is that
happen?
in Google?
I'm sorry, on the surveys are coming in off of Ask Nicely, the software. But then from there, Google reviews are on Ask Nicely. The surveys are Ask Nicely. They come in, and then our person who's managing the surveys puts all the data, or takes all the surveys and gets them out to the team members that are the ones that it impacts. So
it wasn't the Google review gets distributed to?
Google reviews do get distributed among the whole team.
How do you, is that manually that you do that?
It's through the software that we use. We use Yext for Google reviews. So
Okay.
that's where you can go in and say, you know, we want it only to certain team members or we want it to all team members. Our Google reviews, the whole team gets noticed or gets a notification when a Google review comes in.
Well, what is that software, Chris?
Yext, Y-E-X-T. And there's a ton of them out there, and I think I heard some people do it. You can do it yourself through like a JotForm or an Apply, or I don't know if you can do it through a Lead Simple. But then there's also 100 different reputation management softwares. We've just settled on this one. I like it.
And then what do you do with them once they come in? Either they're good, they're average, or bad. But what do you do with those now?
Yeah, surveys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean the results.
Yeah, so when she gets those surveys, she kind of puts them into a spreadsheet, kind of organizes them, and I can pull a spreadsheet up and show you what the spreadsheet looks like. She just puts them into an Excel spreadsheet, and then she just distributes it to the right managers. So those are sent to the managers are looking at them. On resident surveys, we kind of label all the surveys as kind of almost like an NPS. We've got those, neutral score. We've got the kind of the promoter, the higher scores, and then we got our detractors or our negative surveys. And on those negative ones, the property manager or portfolio managers in the pod that they're on, they're gonna reach out to the resident on the negative ones and ask some questions and such.
Okay.
And when they get a positive one, they're typically gonna reach out, thank them for that, and then ask them to go to a Google review from there. And they also go to, the surveys are also going to management, so that's where I can see them, and the other leadership team is gonna see them and decide if there's action taken. And I hate to say it this way, but certainly residents, get the attention of certain people on the team, and client surveys are gonna get probably the attention of everybody on the team. So they're going to all the right people so that at least the needed people are gonna see them and be able to take action from there. Anything else to ask on surveys or add?
I have a question. This might be way too granular for this. So as far as the timing of where you're sending, so you said within 30 days of their move-in, upon receiving their notice of non-renewal, and twice a year. How do you have some? Are you firing these off automated off of a date? Because obviously they just moved in, they got that first move-in, and then you're doing your 2 times a year.
Seems
And when you're
complicated.
doing, they might get that the next day.
Yeah.
But they just moved in, right? So
Yeah,
are you
it's a great
triggering
question.
that off of like a certain date in your database, or?
Yeah, so we on the new ones, so she's just running a report right out of our software and sees who the new residents are. And then she doesn't put them into the system for 60 days or whatever afterwards, so that there's less likely that we're gonna get hit with 2 surveys back to back that maybe aren't relevant. So she's just looking at those new residents. Part of the new resident onboarding is going to be to add them to the survey rotation, but she waits 60 days or so to add them to the regular ongoing ones for the residents.
Gotcha.
And then as they exit, then she's going in and removing them. Part of the exit resident process is one of the steps is just to exit them off of the surveys. So she has probably, I don't know that it's a process in Lead Simple, might be. She's got a process for how she's keeping track of them so that there's a number of complications in it where you only want twice a year, so she's got to be able to kind of get them on a rotation so that she knows she's not sending them more than 2, but also getting two out on a regular basis. So,
And are you sending out, like, how often are you tweaking these? Are you keeping these same templates?
Yeah, great question. I brought what we call our SOP, Standard Operating Procedure, and we just got them for all the key steps, and we got one here for our resident surveys. So it kind of goes over how they manage it, goes over what the specific questions are that we ask, and we just kind of update it on an annual basis. So I did just get an email from her a couple weeks ago saying, hey, are we changing any of the questions, or are we just going to go with the same thing we did last year? We didn't tweak it, we didn't change anything, so we said just do it again, run the exact same questions, same rotation, no changes. So we haven't made any changes in the last couple of years. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea, but it's low on the list of things that we probably should be working on right now. So,
Okay.
and I think on the questions, it's interesting that the questions. I think if you just think what you really want to know and ask questions accordingly, I think this is a great thing to lean on a ChatGPT to help you with and say, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. This is what I want out of the surveys. What kind of questions should I ask? And then I think from there, you can go in with a little bit of like who you are as a company, what's your language, what's your tone, and then kind of tweak the questions that way and even give them answers to come back accordingly. We've got one of the questions, I think the question about on a new resident moving in, we'll ask, was the unit clean and ready to move in? Just feels clean and ready to move in and move in. And I think our answers, we decided to make them a little funner. So it was a fun thing to ask ChatGPT to help come up with the answers that we should have. I think we settled on ours with on that question, was your unit clean and ready for occupancy? The choices were yes, it was spotless and ready. 2, mostly with a few minor issues. 3rd one was it was somewhat clean but needed some attention. 4th option was no, there were several issues. Or the final one was no, it was not ready at all. So you can just come up with the questions, and it's pretty easy to get some artificial intelligence to help on that. Anything else to add? Okay, Google reviews. So Google reviews, I kind of did this one separate or second because I think it's an opportunity to come off of your surveys a little bit. It's something different, but it is. It's kind of secondary on surveys or the next step in the process. So And a lot of this is, and another thing you're gonna see through these slides is I'll say things like, this is how we do it, or why it matters to us. Obviously, everybody's gonna have a different reason why, Google reviews might matter to you, or, the metrics you might wanna track. These are just what we do. It's what works for us. Everybody might have a slightly different approach to it. So these are kind of why Google reviews matter to us. Obviously, there's that reputation impact that Google reviews have. They'll validate us to leads. Obviously, I think as people go to your website and they're now considering you over somebody else, the Google reviews is a great place to go. I fall prey to just figuring out where I want to go to dinner tonight, and when I start looking, I'm like, well, how many times did it get reviewed? I didn't even care what your score is. I want to know if it's 3 reviews or 2,000 reviews. It speaks a lot to what I think I might get when I go there. So I think that really that makes a huge difference, and I think it's something too that I noticed that leads really pay attention to, and I think especially clients or property owners. We get comments all the time about our Google reviews. I got to think that the vast majority of the people that are calling us are seeing that. They're either seeing just the number and the score, or they're actually looking at them, because we do get a lot of comments. We had a lead a couple weeks ago that we met at a house, and they ended the conversation with us by saying the guy didn't really miss a beat. He just looked at us and said, I got one final question. I was looking at your Google reviews, and you guys we're 2 different markets. We have 3 different sites. So in this market, we have about 500 Google reviews and a 4.9. And he said, my last question is, you guys have 500 Google reviews and a 4.9. What's the secret to getting so many raving fans? Still haven't signed him up. I don't know why he wouldn't sign up after that, but it really said something, that he really thought that the Google reviews meant something special. So I think that's a great way to get that validation. And then obviously Google reviews can play a role in your SEO and your AI search visibility. So I think there's some great value in getting that there to help drive your SEO. And then kind of like the surveys as well, there's some internal morale opportunities on Google reviews. And this kind of goes back to, these get sent out, and we're probably on a 30-to-1 positive to negative Google reviews. I don't know, maybe higher than that. So for every 30 we get every 29 positive, we get 1 negative. So our team is on a regular basis seeing those positive Google reviews, and then we get to talk about them, blast them on social media, so that everybody's seeing those. So it gives you an opportunity for your team to see something positive and special as well. So our 2025 Google review data. We received 387 total Google reviews received. I probably really should change that, because it didn't take into account those last 2 on there. So 387 Google reviews, so those are the ones that actually landed on Google, were the 387. 350 of them were positive Google reviews, so it looks like we had 37 negative Google reviews. So I guess that's more like a 1 to 10 ratio. So 350 positive Google reviews. We had 62 Google reviews updated. So those are just old Google reviews that somebody went in and updated. And there's value in that too, because that pushes it back up to the top of the list as well. Yes?
Yes, sir. Do you detect any trends from, let's say, the bad reviews? You learn from those. Are there trends that you say, well, a lot of these people are saying this, this or this?
For sure.
And then you, I guess you adjust your service or policy or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question, and I think we probably could spend a little more time taking those 37 Google reviews and saying where were they. I think they're mostly at move-outs, so we're not giving the deposit back. They don't like how much money we're giving them back. Some of them are just probably after move-out, would probably be during the application process, so people not getting approved, or not getting a property, they just didn't act fast enough, somebody else got it. That's where the bulk of them are. So it does give an opportunity to say, if most of them are in this during this process, then that's where that audit comes in, and you can look and see, do we need to go in and see if there's changes we need to make to our process. These Google reviews are telling us there might be something wrong. So yeah, great point.
Thank you.
And probably something we probably could spend a little more time looking at. Yeah, 62 Google reviews updated, so those are great. And then 48 Google reviews got removed this year. And unfortunately, the bulk of those were positive Google reviews. there came a point where Google thought we were, I guess, too good at getting Google reviews for a point, and said we were getting on that too fast of a pace. You guys were doing something wrong, something suspicious, and they flagged them. And those were all in November and December of this year. And I'll talk a little bit more about why we were getting so many during that time here in a minute.
Do you ever respond to a bad review?
Yeah, we have to respond to everyone. Every single
Okay.
Google review has a good response back. So we're responding to everyone, on positive and negative. So, and the negative ones I think are interesting. That it's almost an opportunity at times. I think there's some valuable stuff that you can put in there, because if you look at your negative reviews, half the time they're stupid reviews. You know, they almost make. I think some of them are just making a fool out of themselves. Like, I hate this company because they charge all these fees. I'm like, they're in the lease. You knew they were coming. Why are you getting mad about it or whatever? You didn't pay your rent or something. You know, they kicked me out on the street, you know, right before Christmas and whatever. And, you know, so they're kind of saying something that's probably, you know, not, you know, just showing that they probably were the cause of something that happened to them. And the response is something that you can kind
They
of counter
haven't
that.
updated my apartment in 5
Yeah,
years.
for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
If
Yeah,
you can
and-
take and spin a negative review
For
into
sure.
something that looks so awesome
Yeah.
for prospective owners that you're trying to bring
Yeah.
on.
And the owners are
Increased my
reading it.
rent by 2.5%.
Yeah, so the owner sees that as a 5-star Google review because they can see
Exactly,
you're
yeah,
increasing the
that's what I
rents and
thought.
such, so. And I think that we one thing we do with the responses are, you know, responses is, you know, we have a rule inside, you can't respond to a negative Google review for 24 hours, so we wanna sleep on it. We've learned the hard way over the years that you fire off too fast, yeah, you're gonna do something, you're gonna say something you probably regret, so. We're gonna wait, and then we're gonna keep it professional, you know, and not, you know, we gotta be professional, honest. That's something that we do on news. But I think there's plenty of people that it's almost like now I'm seeing more and more. I see it just on, if you look at Yelp and some of the restaurants and such, that some people it's almost like the trend's becoming, you know, almost the sarcastic, combative response is almost becoming something that more people are having more and more respect for that on a regular basis. I think it's kind of tough. And then we're in housing, so I think you got to be gentle on housing, that you're not too insensitive to people with housing needs.
Were there any reviews, poor reviews, that were actually true? And then how did you
Yeah.
handle those if there
Yeah.
were? If I can give an example, someone had a poor review of us, me in particular, and all those kinds of things. So my response was, thanks for your comments. I apologize. I did fall short here, and nevertheless, you're one of our best clients or tenants, and you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I gave him a compliment, but I took ownership of that, and I felt like I needed to soften that blow because it was a pretty brutal one. So I needed to do something, and I could have retaliated.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do, but I waited
sure.
the 24 hours that you suggested,
Yeah.
and then I came back with a compliment and taking ownership.
Yeah, I think there's times that some of the stuff that people will say it's true. Most of the time it's exaggerated, and I think there's nothing wrong with saying, you know, unfortunately we probably just weren't the right fit for you. Yeah, we do charge a lot of fees. We do this. We do that's who we are. You know, and if you pay on time and you don't sneak pets in, then the fees are going to be minimal. And I think you can have responses like that even though you're wrong, and you know, go from there. So yeah. Yeah, so I think when we look at the total numbers, we had 386, but the 62 Google reviews were updated, which kind of feel like they were reviews as well. And then the 48 that got removed really put us at about 497-ish Google reviews for the year that we got people to be involved in. So quite a few, and I think it's something that the team's gotten really behind. We never would make this, we couldn't get our team to buy into it. I used to hate to say those terms, buy in, get your team to buy in. You know, it's just, you can take an approach, you can do it or not. But I think really, if you want to have success with it, you got to get your team to believe it's worth something and believe that there's something there that's of value. And if you can get them to do that, then they're gonna take this and go with it. And that's really what's happened. So who we ask Google reviews for? So we got quite a few different people that we will go after looking for Google reviews. Obviously, residents and the clients are the simple ones. That's easy. Everybody knows that. Those are great opportunities. We do a lot of maintenance and project management as well. So we'll go to our vendors and suppliers and ask for reviews. We'll talk more about how we ask and the value of asking in a moment. But we'll go to our vendors, suppliers, and we'll typically leave them Google reviews first before we ask for it. We want to be intentional in how we ask, but vendors and suppliers, especially people you're doing business with that you're giving money to, great kind of people to ask for Google reviews. And it's kind of like if I'm paying you money on a regular basis, my hope would be you'd give me a Google review. So great people to ask. Property management partners, another great one that we took advantage of this year and basically went to every property management provider that we do business with. So our Yext, we got a customer representative there. But then, we use Rent Buying and Property Meld and Lead Simple and all those. And we'll go to our account reps and we'll ask them for Google reviews. And we got a lot of Google reviews from those people as well. So that's a great opportunity there to go get reviews. And we were, again, strategic with it. And I think we went and left some reviews first. And we had a couple of the companies call, and I think we had one company, and they even asked us, like, where did you find that? Where did you find our Google page? We're like, you're a software company. You don't know where your Google page is? Yeah, we left you a Google review, and yeah, if you wouldn't mind leaving us, and then next thing you know, you get 2 or 3 from them as well. So that's a great place to get it. Obviously, your strategic partners. So if you've got attorneys and title companies and accountants and different people that you're working with, those are great places. If you get to the point where you ever build relationships with neighbors and such, that's a kind of a unusual one. Employees can be opportunities for Google reviews. I mean, they work there, or they worked there at one point. They can give you Google reviews. And probably our favorite one we got this year, we actually got a 5-star Google review from a client we fired. So that was really interesting. We fired them a couple of years ago, and they came back to us asking if we'd sell the property, and we ended up selling the property for them, and we asked for a Google review and got it. So I think the bottom line is everybody's an option really to ask for it, and I think if you don't ask, you never know. So you can ask anyone that's kind of involved in your company, and there's opportunities. Anybody got anybody else that they've asked me outside the box? People you've gotten a Google review from before?
Don't forget about your employees' family.
Yeah, family. Yeah.
I've been having to tell a lot of my employees lately, like, it could be anybody that you talk to. This is just somebody sort of not just vouching for the company, but also sort of as your character as a person.
Yeah. Yeah, if you go with the mindset, and there's a lot of people that have a mindset that, I got to only do it with people that kind of I'm interacting from a business standpoint, and then there's a mindset that you can just go to anybody you want. And if you go to, once you start throwing money at it towards your employees, and you're willing to say you can, your mom can give us a Google review if you want, then you can really drive Google reviews if you go in that direction. Family and friends are certainly a way to do it. And I think there's some, I think I don't have any problem with getting Google reviews from anybody who wants to give you a Google review. Google doesn't play fair necessarily. Yelp doesn't play fair when it comes to that stuff. So I think we've got to do everything we can to combat that.
We ask for a Google review, and we don't get it in a reasonable amount of time. Maybe we ask again, we still don't get it. What's the best practice for that, please?
Yeah, I think it's just, you got to train. We train. We're not experts on it, but we just talk through how do you ask, how do you keep at it, what's a new way to ask, find the right moment and go at it. I used an example this morning when I did this session. We had Paul, one of the guys that's kind of running this conference, come in here, and it said something. I'm like, Paul's one of our clients. We manage properties for him. We've had to ask him for Google review for a year. And we just have to keep at it. And I think he's a busy guy. He's doing things. So we just got to keep at it. So I just think it's something that at some point, especially with the clients, I think it's a little easier with the client to say, I'm not going to give up on them. I think the property manager, sometimes our portfolio managers just kind of get this mindset that it's something I'm not going to lose at. I'm going to get a Google review from him. So I'm going to keep looking for those right moments to ask him again for a Google review. And not just right moments for something that might happen. Might try to figure out when's he going to not be so busy. When can I catch him when he can take the 1 minute and do the Google review? But if I'm trying to catch him at a point where he's swamped, he's busy, he's out of the country doing this or doing that, it's probably the wrong time to ask. So, kind of right on that, how do we ask for Google reviews? I think there's a lot of things to keep in mind here on how to ask, and I think you've got to be careful with this, because I think if you get kind of robotic, you become kind of corporate sounding, kind of like these first two here, or if you're not asking like a company, or not asking like a human, or you're you're asking in such a way that sounds, the wrong way, then you're just not gonna get them as well. So I think you've gotta have some sincerity in the ask. You gotta try to tie the ask to a specific moment. Obviously, when the owner's having something great that happens, when the resident's having a great experience, that's a great time to ask. Make it clear why you're asking. People are more likely to say yes when they really know who it's helping, or they know a little bit of the why behind the ask. Lower the pressure. I think it's another one to keep in mind. Totally optional, or only if you're open to it. Don't make it sound like you really got to get it, and you're really trying to pressure them into giving you one. Be specific about where and what. Good example one, be get a quick Google review about your experience with our maintenance team would be amazing. I think just finding a way to say it in the right tone can make a big difference. And then I think it's also you gotta ask. You gotta know when am I going to do this through an email? When am I going to maybe do it on a conversation? When am I going to make sure I'm on the conversation that it feels like it's at the right time, not just I'm throwing it in at the end of the conversation, or I'm throwing it in just because the whole intent of this phone call was to ask you for a Google review. Obviously, you're going to struggle there. But then also, I think making it easy. We've got some cards that we carry around with our maintenance techs, anybody that's in the field, and it's got a QR on it, so you can just click it with your phone, and then you're right there to leave a Google review. We made it really that simple for them to leave a Google review. The easier it is, the more likely they are to complete it. Yeah.
Do you use like a Google filter type system? I forget what the one that we use, but it kind of leads them, and if it's anything that's like, if they want to give a 1-star, then it really is them leaving a comment that gets emailed directly to me, versus, if they're gonna do a 5-star, then it'll just take them straight to Google.
Yeah, we used to. I don't know if we do that anymore. I know we used to. The software we used before kind of set it up that way, so that if it was a bad review, it was kind of coming at you first as more like a survey rather than a Google review, and allowed you to get ahead of it.
So we use Retently. Do you use that too?
No. What's it for? What part of it?
Retently sends out quarterly reports to clients and tenants and asks them for their personal review. So that way we can kind of head it up before it goes to Google.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity, great moment to ask for it for sure.
Yeah.
So that'd be a great way to do it.
We do the first 30-day review for any residents, and then quarterly we do it for all of our clients and all of our tenants as well.
Yeah, I think if you can tie it to that positive moment or with something you're delivering, it's a great time to do it for sure. We also have some how not to or when not to as for Google review. I think obviously that you can just kind of, I don't like the just point blank, will you leave us a review? Can you leave us a review? I think unless you're able to kind of make it part of the conversation you're having with them, that can feel pretty random and awkward. Please take a moment of your valuable time to complete a Google review. Obviously it can sound pretty cheap, and I think that's where, be careful if you use something like a ChatGPT to guide you. You gotta make sure it's speaking your language. We're a pretty simple, laid back property management company. That would not sound like anything we'd ever say. We probably would never use the word valuable time in a sentence to anybody, so I think it can feel a little weird. I hate to ask, but I can sound desperate or signal some level of insecurity. I think that's kind of a weird way of saying it as well. We really need more reviews. Creates obligation instead of goodwill. I think it's another one that as you put incentives in place and you start offering things to your team, you want to make sure that they're trained to not bring that into the conversation. Can you please complete this Google review so I can get $50 for Christmas? That's probably not the way you're wanting to sell it to the client. Your clients are like ours, they probably want a $50 reduction in their management fees too if they knew we were doing that. So, and then also kind of goes to the making it easy. Just search on Google and you'll find us and leave a review. It can be too hard for people to kind of go through that process. I really think that the vast majority of people that you encounter have no idea how to leave a Google review. So in their mind, it probably is a complicated process to go do it. So when we ask for Google reviews, so these are some moments that we found that are great times to do it. Obviously, anytime we solve a problem, I think again, how you ask is important, not, hey, I just solved that problem, can you now leave me a Google review? Not how you do it, but you just solved the problem, it's an opportunity to now work on trying to get that Google review. Any positive feedback or surveys, great time, so kind of back to the surveys. Our pods, our resident service coordinators, when they get a positive score from a positive survey from the resident, they're gonna reach out to them, thank them for the feedback, say a few other things, and then kind of go into the Google review at that point. Obviously, if you know they're happy, anytime anybody's happy, it's a great time to go ask for one. And not just they've expressed that they're happy, I think the happiest clients are the ones we haven't talked to in 2 years and we haven't heard a word from them. So we encourage our portfolio managers to go look in the system and who have you not talked to in 2 years? Who's not had to move out? Who's not having a problem? Do some kind of proactive conversation with them and try to get a Google review. It's a great time to get it. Obviously, positive moments, or lastly, if you give something away. If you guys have a system where you occasionally have to give a discount on a management fee, or you end up not billing for a small maintenance, or you give anything for free, that's an opportunity to possibly bring that in. I think you got to be careful that it doesn't feel like you're bribing them. Yeah.
You mentioned that, I think it was 60 or something reviews have changed last year. Did they change for the positive or?
Yeah, most of them did. So anytime, and that's probably kind of leads out of these where we've, are handing these to a resident at maintenance, when we're going into the property, we're doing an inspection, they go in and click it, but if they left us a review in the last couple of years and they give us another one, it's just updating it. It's not letting them give another one because it's too short of a time frame. So takes it back up to the top, which is good, but most of them are positive. I think I saw maybe 1 or 2 this year that came in where they changed it from a positive to a negative score.
And then also, on, I guess, the second part of that question, are you finding that once you get your 5-star, if something happens, they usually don't go in and change it back to a 1?
Yeah, not very often. And like I said, we had that one where we had, or a couple this year where they went in and changed them, but for the most part, yeah, they typically don't go in and change them. Now, I think we'll talk about incentivizing team here in a minute. I think there's some value in potentially, when you get those negatives, whether they're new or they're updated, of maybe even creating a bigger incentive to somebody on your team to go get that negative removed or updated. I think that's worthy of a much higher incentive than just getting a positive Google review.
Yeah.
So I thought this was interesting. This was our kind of leaderboard for the year. So these are the people that got the most Google reviews. So our field agent had the most, and she was only here for 9 months. So 9 months, and she got 95 in 9 months. She's the one that's going out to the property and just doing the annual occupied property inspections. So she's out walking the property, our once a year walkthrough or our once a year pet walkthrough. She was the one doing that. So she was interacting with the residents on site and was really, really good at it. So she knew how to get those Google reviews. And those are kind of tough situations because a lot of people, they really don't like you coming in and doing that annual inspection. They're a little caught off guard on it. She just had the right personality that was able to get them. So. And then our number 2 person was one of our maintenance technicians. He got 79 Google reviews. Kind of again, going back to the card, he's a little bit of a talker. He's a little bit of a nurturing. He's the right personality. She was a kind of a bubbly personality as well. So both of these people were the kind of people that were really good at talking to people and getting Google reviews. They wouldn't send me out because I'm not that person. I'm the spreadsheet guy. I would not be good. I would probably default to, would you just please leave me a Google review? I got to hit a number this month. I wouldn't get any. But these guys were good at chatting with people. Our leasing pod, there's 2 people on the leasing pod that are interacting with new residents quite a bit. Again, they're pretty positive personalities as well, and both of them had some pretty good numbers also. And then I thought it was a weird one to have. Our 5th one was our field coordinator. She's on the vacant side, so she's in and out of vacant properties, but she's on that, what we call the project management team. So those move outs, make readies, so she interacts with a lot of vendors and such. So she probably got a lot of hers from vendors along the way. But that was the leaderboard. I thought it was interesting that our portfolio managers that deal with the resident or the owners on a daily basis, and the resident service coordinator, who's the resident's point of contact, were not on the leaderboard. Now I know the maintenance technician and the field agent probably stole all the reviews from the resident service coordinator, but we stumped this year getting them from our owners and clients. We didn't do nearly as well. We had certainly less than 14 for any one person, so that was interesting. And that led to this year, as we went to the start of the year and we came up with our new scorecards for this year, number of positive Google reviews received. landed as a new KPI for the portfolio managers this year. So they've got a targeted number they have to hit from a performance standpoint on Google reviews. So if I do this session next year, I'm expecting portfolio managers' name to be on there. They probably didn't hit their numbers for the year.
Do you have like a percentage of the work orders that you would expect a Google review? Or?
Yeah, we don't. We do a ton of, I mean, again, we probably do, I don't know, 6,000 work orders a year. And we just have high effort properties, a lot of properties. And we haven't tied a number to it. I think it'll be an interesting one. We survey after every, and we didn't include that on here, we're surveying after every walkthrough, but we don't have a target right now. I think if we got a target, we wanted to see that number, we put a target on it, and we can start managing it a little bit more, for sure. How to increase Google reviews. So a number of things here that we did to increase, or things that we've done and things that you could do to do it. So I think, again, you got to make it part of the culture. You got to get the team to buy in, the team to want to hear this, the team to see the value in it. If it's something I just force on them and tell them you have to do, but I don't talk about it from a positive standpoint, talk about it from a value standpoint, then they're just not gonna be as excited about it, and then it's going to become corporate sounding and not sincere. Make it a KPI for certain positions. Talked about that already. Have someone own the company target. We did that this year. There's a specific position that owns getting 365, and then she runs incentives, and then she promotes it internally. They come up with different things to push this quarter, different departments to go after this quarter, whatever, to try to get to that number. Incentivize the team, paper review and contests. I think this is a spot where it's worthy of putting some money at it. And our system on this is we pay $10 per review. I think somebody this morning said they pay $50, or somebody else said they pay $100 per Google review. So we're paying $10. So every time somebody gets one that mentions their name, it's a $10 pay. So, and that's remote team member or local. It's paid the same. So the remote team members, it's an even bigger payout for them to get that. They really get it. So, but again, what was interesting is not a single remote person was on the leaderboard this year. For those, they have some opportunities for. Well, I take that back. Our leasing coordinator is a remote person, so she did pretty well this year on that. So that's one incentive we use, is the pay per review. And I think, again, if you get those negatives, and those negatives can get updated or removed, then it's probably worth me paying 10 times that, paying $100 for a negative. My fear is, are they less bothered by a negative review if they know they can get it off? I got a negative mindset. I probably shouldn't think that way, but I think it'd probably be a good thing to do, is pay a little bit more on the negative ones to try to get those updated and removed. We also ran a contest for Google Review of the Month. Basically, we just took all the Google reviews we got, picked the one that we thought had the greatest language in it, and we paid $100 for that Google review to whoever got it. And I think we did it in Q4. I don't know what they did for December, but I know for October and November, a remote team member won both of those. So again, $10. Now they got $100 pay, which from a remote team member standpoint is a real good pay. So training, I think another way to increase.
I'm sorry, go back, because that's a great idea, by the way, because I want to steal that one. How are you picking the Google? Do you have like a committee, or is it the whole team votes on the best one?
On the best one, we just did it with the owners. My wife and I own the company, so we just write on. We knew we'd be independent on it. We could go in and get a vote on it, but our team's already taxed. I don't need to send out any more surveys than I need to. But I think it's good to figure out, how do we do this in such a way that the team feels this is a fair and honest way to do it. And I think at the time, the quick way for us was just to say, Julie and I will be the ones that just review and pick our favorite one. We knew it wouldn't. There probably wouldn't be somebody thinking it's a favoritism or whatever. That's one way to do it. But I think it's another positive thing you can bring in to say, hey, we narrowed it down to these 5. You guys vote on the top, on the one you like the best, and let the team pick the one of the 5 that was the best. Now, for us, in order to pay your $10, your name's got to be mentioned in the Google review. So now everybody's knowing, hey, these are the 5 favorite, and I just hate it because then, mine was really good. Why didn't mine make the list? Mine was great this month. And I hate that stuff. So I don't want everybody, seeing them all, and somebody gets mad that they didn't get picked or whatever. So so that's kind of how we did it, for sure. But the training, how and when to ask, I think this is one that you need to put the effort into on training. I think there's great videos you can read. You can build out a good training process in ChatGPT. You can just sit down and think about it and really come up with, you know, how to ask and when to ask. And I think that's the key to upping these numbers, is getting good at how to and when to. And it was interesting, we were talking about, you know, what do we want to do this year on that training? And I started thinking, well, how am I gotta do some research, and I'll put the training on and this and that. And then I thought, well, why don't we just let the maintenance coordinator and the leasing manager be the ones that lead the session? They're the ones that got all the Google reviews. They probably could write the how to, when to better than I could. So I think that's something we're gonna probably do this year, is just let the people that are great at it be the ones that are talking about it. Here's how I do it. Here's how I ask. Here's when I ask. So how much we invested in Google reviews in 2025? $10 per review, as I mentioned. I didn't get the exact number, but we're pretty close to $3,000. Probably about 300 of those reviews mentioned somebody's name. Most of them have some kind of comment in them. So we invested $3,000 in that. Then we had the review of the month. We did that in Q4, so it was $100 each. And then we did a big one. We really wanted to hit our 365 this year, so we did a big push in the end of the year. So we had a contest for Q4 where we said we wanted to get, I think it was 100 Google reviews. We said we got 100 Google reviews, and everybody on the team got their name mentioned in a Google review. Every single person. So our bookkeeping team, I had to get one that had my name mentioned on it. Everybody on the team gets one mentioning their name, and we get 100. We'll give an extra day of PTO. And we kind of did that with, we were already contemplating giving that day after Christmas off. It's a paid holiday for us, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. But then day after Christmas was Friday. We knew nobody was going to come to work. Most people were going to probably take PTO anyhow. So we just said, we'll give you an extra day of PTO if we hit that, and we'll be closed 5 days in a row. And that lit a fire. I mean, it lit a fire. They wanted it. And we got the extra day. They were able to use it at a different point, but I think we had to hit it by December 19th. That was another catch to the contest. We had to do it by December 19th, so we knew we could say we were going to be closed next Friday. And I think we hit it by like December 10th or something, the number. So, and that's when Google flagged some of our reviews and started pulling them off, because we started hitting them so fast that they deleted probably 40 Google reviews during that time and said, you got something's off. And it was weird, because some of them were, you know, they were like, you know, that's truly an owner, right? They deleted one of them, and that really shouldn't have been deleted. And then when you go to Google to try to get them to have a conversation with you about why you did it, it was probably the most impossible thing we tried to do this year, was reach out to Google and talk to somebody and have a conversation about it. And we'll take all this, and for us, we put it into marketing expenses. So we're going to put this money in marketing. We say the Google reviews is part of marketing. If you have a reputation management budget or something, then you could have thrown this into there as well. And then start of the year, come up with a budget for this year, how much am I willing to spend on it, and go from there. One other thing that we do, we kind of make a big deal about this. We pay quarterly. So we paid at our quarterly all-staff meeting that we have, and it's an in-person meeting. And when we do it, my wife, who's our operations manager, she's got a money gun, and she gets the money out. It's all ones, cash, and they just shoot the money gun at the people, and there's $1 bills flying everywhere, and the team just loves it. It almost looks inappropriate, but they love what's going on when they do that. Who owns it? So we already talked about who owned the surveys. We got a person that owns Google reviews in our company. So our social media specialist, it's just the person that landed on in our company, just fit for this position. She kind of manages our reputation management, so Google reviews is part of it. So she owns the software, so she manages the software, gets the reports out of the software, deals with the software. She promotes it internally, so she's promoting the contest. She was in Q4, as we were doing this contest, she was sending out a Monday update. This is where we are, this is what we need, this is the person that doesn't have the numbers. She was leading our Tuesday all-staff meeting a couple times, talking about new ways to get it, so she promotes it and such internally. And then she takes the reviews and she takes them out and promotes them through social media and such. And then team members who have KPIs are kind of owning it as well when they've got to hit a certain number. So the metrics we're tracking, got a few, we've talked about them throughout this meeting, but these are the numbers that land on our scorecards, and we have the historical data, and we're gonna have it as long as we track these numbers, so we can go back and look from 4 years ago, where were we on a monthly basis on these numbers, and hopefully 4 or 5 years from now we'll see it too, so we could get a long line graph showing what our numbers are. But the numbers that the metrics and KPIs we're tracking: Google reviews received, positive Google reviews received, Google reviews removed, Google reviews updated, and then active review initiatives. So that's where we're saying what contest or what promotion or what angle are you taking to try to get this party or this party to increase Google reviews. She's got to have one of those initiatives at any point. So that's what I got on that. Anybody got anything to add on Google reviews? Anything that you guys have done on Google reviews that works? We certainly want to get more this year, so I'd love to
Yep.
hear from you guys.
I'm happy to share.
Yeah.
Because it's something that worked pretty well. So twice we've had instance where somebody's gone in and created, 20 to 50 Gmail accounts and,
Yep.
and wrote reviews. And so the last time it happened, actually the first time it was a road building employee, in case anybody needed to know. The last time was a tenant, and it was really kind of holding us down. We ended up having to get 3.8 or something, and I was trying to, you think about how am I going to get somebody to give me a review, right? And so we created this summer raffle series, and we did it with tenants in mind. And what we did is we offered them a $300 off their rent, a rent credit, if they wrote us a 5-star review, and we could trace it back to their name. So we had, because some people have fake profile name or whatever. And basically, if you wrote one, we would put your name in a hat, kind of thing. And at the end of the month, we would actually put it in one of those things so that we could spin the wheel digitally, so you could see
Make
it.
a
So
big
we
deal
showed the
about it.
recording,
Yeah.
so everybody knew it was real. And we did that. So we did that for 3 months. So it cost me $900. We went from 60 something reviews to 170 by doing that. It cost me $900.
Great
But what I
value.
realized
Great
about
value.
a month and a half in was, man, our reviews are tenant heavy. So I was like, we've got to do something for owners to kind of equal that out a little bit, mix it a little bit more. So we did it with the owners too. It wasn't as well. We didn't get as many as we were hoping. We didn't do 300. You can offer rent, but we offered like free management fees for So it actually worked out really well. Like I said, we went from 60-ish to 170 something.
$900 is a cheap. That's
Right.
That's cheap for that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's great value. Yeah, I think that's a great point. That I think there's some value in seeing where the Google reviews are. You don't want them to get, and we're probably a little heavy on residents and not as much on owners. And I think you want to try to distribute it a little bit and get a good mix, which is where an initiative could come in to like, hey, we need to get more client reviews, so we got to run some initiatives designed to get client reviews. And I think it's interesting. Our return rate on our client surveys is more like 15%, which I just don't. It feels strange to me that we can be 22% of the residents, 15% of the clients,
Right.
and we get a lot of
It's
clients.
very backwards.
Yeah, it is. You'd almost expect it to be the other way. So it's almost like I think it requires more effort to go get them from the clients for some reason. So yeah.
Actually, while I've been sitting here, I was thinking, man, we should do this again, because it's been about a year and a half or so since we did it. But I was thinking maybe we should do it again, because the economy's, everybody's tight, budgets are tight, money's tight for everybody right after the holidays. This is like the perfect time to do that again, to give away free
Yeah.
money for reviews.
I think you got to be careful if you're marketing much where you're making it sound like you're throwing money at
Right.
getting the Google review. Google can
Right.
get a little defensive about that, but I think if we went in July and said, hey, it's Christmas in July, you complete a review, a Google review, we'll give you $500 Christmas in July credit on your account, and then we promoted it the right way. I would think we could get 100 Google reviews with a strategy like that.
Yeah.
So I think those kind of things they're really, I don't want to diminish it, but they're really easy things to do that can really drive Google reviews. Just finding the right incentive. And again, I think people get a little, $900. That's a lot of money. That's not a lot
That's
of
not-
money
I mean,
to
think
get
about it,
Google
all you're doing
reviews.
is really waiving whatever your management fee would have been, most likely, or on that one particular.
And the
property
value
for
you
the
got
month.
out of it, you
Yeah.
got 120 more Google reviews.
Yeah.
That there was some SEO value, and there's a lot of value in it. So
And
I
I can
think
tell a direct correlation between the reviews reviews coming in the phone ringing.
Yeah.
For the BDM,
Yeah.
so.
It should. It should work that way. It should drive it up, or drive your SEO up. It should drive when you're Googling that, and the more the map section on the Google search is going to pull you higher if you got more Google reviews. So your phone should ring more with more Google reviews, and it should be easier to
And it
close
got us,
this.
and it got us all the way back up to a 4.8,
Yeah.
so in a solid 4.8.
To be eligible in the contest, did they have to give you a certain grade? Or could they have submitted a
Worded it so
one-star
that
review?
it sounded more that they had to write a 5-star.
I would really be curious how many people, if you're dangling $500, how many people are really going to put a one? I
Right.
mean, yeah, I know you're doing this drawing in front of everybody, but
The
I
dangerous
would
thing
feel
is
like,
there was one household who won twice. So it counted for everybody in the house. If your name was on a lease, you could do it.
yeah,
So, if it's got 4 people in there because it's two couples, there's 4
There's 4
chances for one
opportunities.
house.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I think that's a great way to get
and
some
then we
reviews.
remind them like, hey, only a couple more days from the end of the month to get a
Sure.
review in.
Yeah, you only tell them once, you're probably not going to get a good response.
Right.
But if you tell them 10 times,
Yeah.
10 different ways throughout the month, you're more likely
Now,
to
on
get.
the owner side, we did have one owner who was like, stop emailing me about this. Like,
They don't say that stuff, do they? Yeah, it's tough to get them from the owners. I mean, you
Yeah.
just, but those are the ones where we're not going to give up. I think you
Yeah.
just keep asking, find another way, and even there's that slow play it. We've talked about you had a tenant in place for 2 years, 5 years, whatever. They won't give it to you after a 5-year and a successful move out. Well, now get a quick turn and then a quick lease, and just keep chipping away at having conversations with them, and don't give up, and you can get it. So.
did you say that there was somebody here at the conference that you managed for, that you've been trying to get the right one for you for a year?
Yeah, it's one of the guys.
Find out when his flight is, right? So that you know when he's gonna be sitting his ass in the airport not doing anything.
That's
when you say.
when you do it. Yeah. I'm actually just going to take one of these over to him and grab him and just say,
Yeah.
look, let me help. And we've actually thought about doing that with residents. We try not to let them come in the office, but they find a way in every once in a while. And when they do, we've thought about we got these sitting right on the counter, and we've thought about just almost walking across the counter and helping them actually do it.
Well, the person, if you've got a receptionist, the person sitting at that desk is the best person to get you to bring in reviews for every single person walking in the
Yeah.
door.
Yeah.
We don't have receptionists, but if we
Anybody
did-
that's interacting with them, if you got
Yeah.
interacting, and it's absolutely 100%. Anybody else got anything to share?
I just have a question, actually. So, we have a smaller size team, and so we assigned a specialist to be in charge of Google reviews. And so, even though we're still trying to create that culture for our team on Google reviews, this specialist was the only one that was incentivized, right, to get everyone to kind of join in on the Google reviews. So what she did was, in fact, went and told all her friends and family members to jump in because she was being incentivized and paid for it. We tried that one time, and at one time, all those reviews were, after a little, after I don't remember, a month or two, were gone. But Google erased them because, just like yourself, caught a red flag or something, right? So I just wanted to ask if I'm able to get my boss, right, to, hey, maybe we can incentivize everyone in the team instead of just this one person. I'm just wondering how often does it happen, or will it happen if all the team jumps on telling their friends and family, you know what I'm saying, and if we're going to pay them, but then these reviews, are erased. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things you can do. You can try to tie it back to someone that you can connect. Like, you can say, hey, I know this was a resident, or I know this is an owner. There's a way in which you can know who the people are that are leaving the Google reviews. So that's one thing you could do. I think you can have that kind of rule with your team. If you're paying your team, then you can put some rules on the payout. Like ours are just has to mention your name. You could put more on it if you wanted to. And then I think from the team standpoint, I think you brought a good point up that sometimes this can feel like it's only valuable to a few people on the team because there's only a few people that are really eligible to be able to go get Google reviews. And I think if you can figure out how to get a team goal, like the day of PTO, I've never seen my team come together to try to get something when it was a free day of PTO,
That's
right in the
actually
middle of
a
the
great
Christmas
idea.
trip. Yeah, or Christmas shutdown. They all came together and they were helping each other on how to get the Google reviews. So I think if you can figure out how to make it a whole team thing, then I think you get everybody to buy in as well. One thing you said I thought was interesting too. I think you gotta. We luckily haven't had this where somebody I think has really tried to sabotage. I think we've had a couple that maybe came. They got 2 or 3 people to do it, but I think you can get vulnerable, and it's interesting that when you promote this a lot to your employees, there is that thought of getting an employee maybe that has a bad experience that leaves under bad terms that knows how important this is.
Right.
That could go in and try to cause some damage. And again, trying to work with Google to protect you is probably not going to get you
No, I
anywhere.
think I have from the last attack, there's probably 10 or 12 that are still there.
Yeah.
But like that was, I went full like dickhead when I responded to those, because I knew who it was, and just
Yeah.
mentioned the person by their real
Yeah.
name, first, middle, and last, and how, just, you can actually go and read the reviews on ours and find the 1 stars, because it's all him. But I mentioned him, I did it intentionally, mention him first, middle, and last name, so that it doesn't help him in his job hunt, his search moving forward, so that it actually affects him, because if you're hiring people, you should be Googling their names.
Yeah, I think it's something we're probably going to, as Google reviews and Yelp and wherever it is you're getting, it's becoming more and more impactful. I think that there's going to probably become some repercussions for these unverified email or unverified reviews or whatever, and I think we're probably going to have to force ourselves into some kind of process for dealing with those kind of sabotage or whatever you're going to get. It doesn't feel good.
No.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else got anything?
Has anyone had any luck getting Google reviews moved?
It's very
Forgive me if you
difficult.
asked that question. I was
It's very difficult. You have to
Yeah.
go in and flag the review, and then there's another way that I found you can go in, and I have to physically do it to show you how to get there. But I have to do it on the computer because I can't do it on the phone. But there's a way that you can go in and actually ask for it to be looked at again on top of it just being flagged. But like I said, it's almost 2 years later, and I've still got
Success
10 or
rate's
12
got to be
on
pretty
it.
low on it, I imagine. Yeah, it's tough.
I mean, because I
Because
have
the
one.
problem is, once they actually have that profile has clout to it,
Yeah.
meaning that they've written reviews for other companies, and especially if they've tagged while they were inside of that business, or took a photo of while they're inside of that business as part of their experience, Google considers them more of a higher value reviewer. So even if it's a fake profile, like I'll tell you, I have a Gmail account that I created specifically so that I can, and it's a fake name,